Thank you, Lindsay. All right, so that was perfect timing too. So Lindsay, two-time Tableau Zen Master, three-time Tableau Public Ambassador, working in healthcare for over 15 years, currently a consultant design specialist at Health Data Biz. She's a leader of Project Health Biz, which is a really fantastic community initiative that I've myself have put some work into. She has a BA from Bucknell University and a master's from the University of Connecticut. And she lives in Pennsylvania with her husband and two boys. She enjoys hiking, snowboarding, running, cleaning, spending time with family, and drinking a good craft beer. So with that said, Lindsay, why don't you take us away?
See, that's how you get over cleaning. You have a nice beer while you're cleaning, and it makes cleaning fun, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the trick, folks. Speaking of tricks, this is what we're going to do today. Learn some tricks. Okay. So thanks so much, Zach. As you said, I'm Lindsay Betzendahl, work at Health Data Biz, a small consulting company, which I love working with awesome healthcare organizations. And obviously I build business dashboards there. And I actually really like creating those types of dashboards for clients. So I thought that I would share some top tricks that I use to just make those dashboards on fire, really great for my clients. And so we're going to go over top 10 tricks that I have that I use quite often. So yeah, let's get to it. And I know my camera's still on, but I have to look at my other screen. So I'm not going to look at the camera so much. Pardon me. Okay. So these are the tricks I'm going to go over today. This dashboard is available on my Tableau public profile, which you can access and search me there. I have given this talk a couple times, so it may not say Columbus Tug, but it'll look exactly the same. Anywhere you see a little fire icon in the dashboard may have a link to a blog post or an example dashboard or other resources to learn more about the trick. And these are what we're going to go over. So we're going to talk about landing page images, blank character navigation, which is like one of my favorites, how to use containers effectively in dashboards, custom formatting your text with characters instead of calculations, how to make indicator bars, which is a chart type I use a lot, floating bar charts, which is also a chart type I use quite a lot, how to make a sheet swap button, using header images in your dashboards, how to make fancy tables. And one of my favorite tricks, hopefully we get to it, is how to return to the page from where you came from, which will make way more sense when we get there. So let's get started because this is going to be kind of rapid fire. So again, we're recording it. If you missed something, you can always come back and check it out. Okay, so the first couple things is the background image, how to do this the right way. The blank character navigation. And here's a quick bonus tip of if you didn't know it, now you know it, you can float things off a dashboard. So I do this often when I have questions for clients. And the trick here is just, if you bring this over outside of your dashboard canvas, it obviously disappears, but we can just fool Tableau a little bit and drag off our information. So bonus tip there, that doesn't even count. You get that one for free. All right, let's talk about background images. So I use these a lot for landing pages for clients, kind of like a splash page. They look really nice. I don't like to float everything in regular dashboards. So I only use this on my landing page where I can, float just a couple things. Oops. All right, so how do we do this? First of all, if you bring in your image, I'm going to grab the image for the tug here. Not that one. We're going to do this one. So let's just say I'm going to fit this to center. This is my background image. We'll just move this off the side for right now. All right. So what you'll see is that this image is actually exactly the same size as this. It's 1200 by 800. I use Figma, which is a design and prototyping tool. I like it a lot because you can specify the pixels that you want in your image, which I find a little more difficult in PowerPoint. In this case, you'll see that Tableau, there's all this extra space. So the first thing we need to do this the right way is go go over to your layout and remove all of this outer padding. Tableau will default to 4 pixels around every image that you bring in. And while you may have thought you've done it all, Tableau also puts an automatic 8 pixels around the actual tiled container that's the default for your dashboard. So when you put an image in, it'll automatically brings out a tiled container that you don't even know about. So the trick is always to make sure you can get rid of that 8, and then your background image will fit perfectly in your dashboard. Okay, so that's how to do it the right way. The next is blank character navigation. So imagine this dashboard. I have these titles, or what will be navigation buttons, are built into my image. I do this a lot just because I don't want to use Tableau's native text navigation. You have less control over how you want that text to look. So instead, I use blank navigation. So I would put out a horizontal container over my area where I want to have some navigation buttons. And in this case, I'm just going to put a blank one in here for now. So then I bring in my navigation button, and let's just say we're going to be doing, there we go. We're doing one for overview, let's say. So that's what I'm going to do for now. So I have this navigation button here that is over top of my background image. We're going to edit this button. And let's see here. I go to a website called Empty Character. Come on. Not going to show up for me. Okay, so I'm sure you can get this from any other place, but I just grabbed this empty character. Now, just like any other character or like an emoji, it takes up, or like an emoji will take up so many characters. So this blank character takes up 5 characters. Anyway, it's completely blank. And I'll get rid of my background image, and let's navigate somewhere. That'd be helpful. So we're going to navigate to the overview page. And so now you'll see I have a navigation button that is completely blank and transparent, has nothing in it, and it'll maintain this. This is different than putting like a space in there. I found that sometimes Tableau will lose that space that you put in. So this is actually a character which will hold its place. So I'll put like 4 of those in here and have my lovely navigation buttons that I didn't have to create images for. So love that one. Okay. The next is some custom formatting. So here's an example dashboard. We have our year-over-year change with an up or a down arrow. We're going to talk about these indicator bars. And so that is essentially a way to show or draw attention using color and data to say, hey, look here, and it changes dynamically, but it is a part of also a title to your chart. So you can see how those will change dynamically based on something. Then this is the floating bar chart that I talked about, which we'll go over. And then the map sheet swap button, where we can click a button and it actually changes the type of chart in the view. Okay, so let's do the custom formatting first. Okay, so let's say we want to do our year over year difference. So here we have our year and our sum of sales. And we're going to change this to percent difference. Now, you probably all know if you do a percent difference, but you want to maintain just 1 year, like I just want to see the selected year's percent difference from the prior year. If I keep only this, it breaks my table calc because their other years aren't there. Well, another bonus tip is using a lookup function that kind of keeps our table calc available, even though I'm actually only keeping 1 data point. So that's just a bonus tip for you. All right, so now that we have our value, we're going to edit our sum of sales. We're going to format this, and we're going to do a custom formatting here. Now, I'm just going to grab it, but for speed. So you can go to custom formatting for your numbers and go down to custom. And here is where you would type in your character. I grab my characters from my Mac up on my show emojis and symbols. You can obviously get your character from any other place online or wherever your computer has characters available. You just pop those in here. So I want an up arrow plus a space. Then I want to format my % with 1 decimal, my down arrow, nothing for if it equals 0. That's how Tableau formats things. You just do the positive, negative, and 0. Now that is way faster. Before, sometimes I would write calculations like, if it's, less than 1, and then we're going to have the down arrow if it's above, whatever. So this is a much faster way. Additionally, you can do something really silly and fun like this. You can put any kind of characters in here and really jazz up your dashboard if you want. Okay, moving along. Told you we'd go over this fast. Okay, the next one is containers. So I know there's team container and team float. I'm totally team container like 90% of the time. And once you learn how to use them, I think they are life-changing. So I'm going to show you how I use containers to build basically this view. So this view looks like it, there's some shading. I know it's not totally perfect as something you could do with drop shadows in another tool. But as I mentioned before, I don't like to float everything on top of a background image in an actual dashboard. It's much cleaner to just have everything actually in containers. So maybe you would really never want to do these background like fake shadows, but I want to show you how to do it anyway, just to show that you can. Okay. So first what we're going to do is we're going to drop in a big container, and we're going to make this the right color that I want. This is going to be our gray background, E-C-E-F-E-E. Okay, and then we're going to add padding around the whole thing of 25. I like to use margins. I like to add some white space in my build. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go back here. And we're going to draw in a blank object just to kind of hold that there and remove that padding. This is going to be like watching paint dry. But once it's done, you'll be able to see how this works. So it looks like nothing's there, but we do have our container that's gray in the background. We just added a blank one on top. Okay, we're going to put a horizontal container above that. Another one below this. Then we're going to add in we're going to add a blank here, another blank in here. We're going to make these both white and white. And then we're going to do another one up here, another one in here. Why is that like that? That's weird. Let's remove all this padding. Remove this padding. I got to color these white. Let's do that. Color them white. Okay, this one. Am I doing this right? Let's see here. Normally this is not this big like that.
Hey, Lindsay, it looks like we lost audio. And it appears there's quite a few people in the chat that all still lost it.
Not hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Probably not gonna be as good. I don't know what's going on with my mic, but does it sound okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Did that just happen?
Probably about a minute or two ago.
Okay. Thank you. That's no good. Okay. All right, let me get back to here. Okay. So I have this. Now I'm going to add another container here and here. So what I'm doing, I need to make this back white, is I'm essentially trying to make my separations between all these containers and just using, these are where my charts would go. So this one is going to be white. That's what I missed out last time. Okay, so you can see I have my 4 areas where I have these charts. Or I'm sorry, where I now have containers. And so what I'll do is then within here, we'll add another, we would add another container. And this one is going to be where the final putting my chart. So I'm going to make this white in the border here. And then I'm going to add just the outer padding on 2 sides of 10. Ooh, not that one, this side. 10 and 10. There we go. So you'll see the way that, so the way I end up doing this a lot with clients is I build out, you have to kind of layer in all of your containers within containers, which I know gets tedious, but if you have a vision for how you want it to be, you can make it happen. And so you'll see I'll just finish these last 2. And we've got our whole container build. So you just have to use kind of padding and containers within containers essentially to get the structure that you want. And so when I built this on the other page, and I'll go back to it now that I'm done, you'll see why this is sort of necessary. Okay, there we go, did it. So you'll see on the actual dashboard build, once I have all these containers within containers, essentially, then I can use this container to structure it differently. So I have here, there's a vertical container, we have a horizontal container. So again, the whole container thing, but it really helps clean up your dashboard, keeping things organized and distributed exactly the way you want. Very pixel perfect. Okay. Moving along to indicator bars. So as I mentioned, an indicator bar is essentially this header bar that I use as a title or as kind of a metric header, as well as a data-driven indicator. So here we just type min1 into our rows or columns, sorry. And we're going to, we edit this so it just goes from 0 to 1 to get our entire bar. And then normally you would clean this up. It's already cleaned up, no borders, all that good stuff. So now we have the header and all you have to do is make it data driven and add your title to it. You may know that you can put a blank on label, which essentially activates the label part of here, even though you don't even have any data on this page. And you can type in, profit right in here. Now, the other alternative that you could do is if you wanted to have any kind of, and I'm gonna just add that. If you wanted to have any dynamic text in there, obviously you could add in, say, if this made sense, right? You could add segment in here and I could do something like that. And then it would dynamically change for what I filtered for. Another bonus tip, if you've never used upper and lower, if you double click on your pill, you can say upper, I like my font types to match. And now I have profit, I selected consumer, great. All we need now is whatever you want your calculation to be in terms of when it would change colors. And obviously this could be anything. In my example, I'm just gonna say if the month that we've selected is greater than or less than our average monthly profit over the year, then we're gonna change it to a different color. So I've already created that calculation. I'm just gonna throw it on here for right now. And we can see, well, we already know that this will work, but I don't have any years on here. So pick a different. I don't have any months on here either, but okay. But that's how you build this, as you saw here. So again, just a, min 1, and we can add that to our KPIs. I'll say one more thing about this. Often when I put this in, I also use padding a lot in this. So, I said I did it to 0 to 1, but I didn't want it to look like it went across the whole page, even though in the worksheet, the container is like this. So instead of putting it into the axes, I actually put it into the container and adding padding to the worksheet, which allows me just a little more pixel perfect pushing as I want. So I want it to kind of look like a tab or a little flag. So I just added like 150 pixels to the right-hand side of both of these. And that allows me to get it exactly the way I want. But again, I don't do it on the axes. I do it on the worksheet padding because I can adjust it as needed right on the dashboard. That's a bonus. Okay. The next is floating bars. And so what I often use these for is to look at a range. So I work in healthcare. So let's say I'm looking at, the lowest 25th percentile hospital length of stay to the 75th percentile hospital length of stay. So we have a range of what that 25th to 75th percentile looks like. And then on top of that, I still want to plot either one value for like the hospital in question, or perhaps, all the hospitals within that range. So it's used a lot to look at range of percentiles for a low to a high, and then either plotting, a selected dimension value or like all of them. So the way we do that is simply you need two things. You need the minimum value that you want the bar to start at, and then the range of the bar. So what we do here is, let's see here, I'm going to do, doesn't matter. So I have a calculation that essentially is going to give me that minimum, the month with the lowest profit is essentially what I'm getting at here. So the month with the lowest profit. And so I'm going to put that out on my columns. So here's the month with the lowest profit. Now, right now it's giving me that value. That's not actually what I want. So we're going to change this to a Gantt. So that is my lowest month's profit. For the range, I need the difference between the lowest and the maximum in this example. And so I created a calculation for that. Here we go. Where I've already done my minimum and my maximum, and now I have a value that's the difference between the two. Put that on size, and I will get my the bar in the background. Okay, so this is just a dual axis chart. And the next thing we're going to do is actually put profit up here. We're going to make this a circle though. We are going to do a dual axis. We'll sync these up. And then we're going to put on, we're doing month of order date. Onto my details. Month. And let's bring those to the front, move those to the back. Okay, so there are all of my months, and we can see this is the lowest month, this is the highest month, and these are all the months between. The next step here is just to kind of clean this up. We don't want, we don't need measure names on these things. Okay, so I can now change my color for those in the front. I can make them maybe a little smaller so they fit into my range. So there we have it. And we would add some detail to our tooltip, but now we have our range and then we have our values on top. Make them a little pink. Okay, that's how we do the floating bars. Like I said, there's a lot of use cases that I use this for where we need to have a range in the background. Okay. Moving on to number 7, I can't see. All right, so we're gonna do the map swap button. And this is sort of a, well, I'll get into it. Okay, so in my example, we have just one button that swaps between 2 maps. The cool thing about this trick is it's not just it's a kind of like a sheet swap, but you can have it cycle through various, like more than two types. I just had 2 maps, but I have an example on my profile that you can look at where I cycle through 3 different variables with the same trick. So first, what we do here is we create a parameter called map type, which has 2 values, geographic and a hex map. I should probably call this a tile map. That's really what it is. But anyway, so those are the 2 values in it. I have a parameter calculation or calculation using the parameter that just is the value of the parameter. So that is nothing tricky. And the next one is a next map type. So this is the calculation that you could actually add in as many variables if you want to cycle through. So I have, if the map, whenever the map type is whatever value it is, if it's geographic, then hex, and hex and geographic. If you were to have another one in here, like when map, then circle map, that doesn't make any sense, but right, then you'd be circle map, then geographic. And so you get back to where you started from. All right, so what we do with that is we're gonna put both of these on, we're gonna put that one on detail, and the next one is going to be on shape. Let me make it a shape. And I've already, organize these, but that's just what the button is. So you'll see here right now, it's on hex map, what is being shown, and the shape is geographic, because that is the next one you're clicking, right? And so if I go to geographic, it's going to show my hex map. That's the next one I want to get to. That's kind of the rationale behind using it this way. Okay, so then what we do, so this is just the button part. I already have my 2 maps. One is set to true when hex is on, the other is set to true when geographic is on. So obviously it blanks out if we don't have that there. And then we're just gonna hook all this up. So that's all it is, these three sheets. This is again why I use containers, because it's how you can use sheet swaps. So I'm gonna add in, oh, one's already in there. I've already got my hex sales in here, but I'm gonna add my map in here. Get rid of this. Okay, so I have my map, let's hide that title. Okay, so now I have my map in here as well. Now, in order to make this work, we have to use a dashboard parameter action. So we're gonna do that. So dashboard, change parameter. And what we're gonna say is when we click the map button, which is not on the page yet, that would be helpful, Lindsay. Let's get that out here. So the button has to be out. Okay, there we go. That looks a little weird, but that's okay. There's my button. All right, so now I have my button. Now we can go back to dashboard actions. Change parameter value. Okay, we're gonna do our swap button. And the parameter is gonna be our map type. The field, oh, did I mess this up by not putting the fields on it probably? Oh, no, there we go. The field is next map type. So that is what it's going to switch to and change the value of. All right, let's try this out. Yay, there we go. So it'll swap through those. Okay, so that's pretty cool for being able to have a worksheet trigger a parameter and swap out your worksheets. Now, obviously you could have like a drop down parameter, but this is a little slick sometimes and you can use it for a lot of different things. Alrighty, how am I doing on time? Okay, last 2. This is what we're calling our fancy table. We're gonna go over a couple of different elements within this. I just wanna point out this particular one is by Ludovic Tavernier. I probably say his last name wrong, but I did not make this up. This came from him, but I'm gonna show you how to use both this and some other elements within this table, or what could have been a table, but is now cooler than a table. I use a lot of tricks to try to get a lot of information into one worksheet that doesn't necessarily look like one worksheet. So switching out different types of charts, elements of, text or what have you, so that we can avoid the scrolling issues that sometimes happen if you have more than one worksheet. All right, so let's start with here. All right, so I've already got my 2 bar charts. So what I'm going to show you is how to add these text elements, places where you can have more than one text element in one data point, and then this kind of pill-shaped indicator. And I should add all of these things that I'm showing today, like I have done for actual clients. So this is stuff you can use and people have liked. Okay, so right now I have my 2 bar charts, and what I want to do is add these 2 other elements of text. And so we're going to put first order date, which there it is. No, wait, first we're going to do min 0 and negative. Oops. So I want these ahead. So the way Tableau works is, right, anytime you're putting values out here, it's going to create an axis. There are downsides to using this approach, because so right now I'm creating essentially equal width axes. So I have the 2 for my sales, and then I added these other 2. Now I'm going to use these for text. So the reason I'm saying this is because if you have only like these 4, you're going to have these big spaces for a text field. But for example, once you have a number of charts, like this doesn't look too bad. In fact, the white space can be really helpful. And just pointing that out, because this is not always the best approach. But once I have this value here, essentially now I have a mark that I can add information to. So I can add anything to it. So I'm going to add first order date onto label, and I'm going to make this my exact date. And center it right now. And I'll change my mark to look like nothing. I'll actually just make it a circle, but we're going to hide all of the color and all the size. So now I have my date. And the reason that this can be helpful is because you can also add in any other information into this section now. I mean, I could add a Vism tooltip here and be like, here's their first date and here's how their sales have improved since that day. I could add in other information. So it's very helpful. To Jay's question just now, this is already available on my Tableau public profile, so anybody can download it if you missed that comment in the beginning. Okay, so then the next one I'm going to do is kind of that exact example. I'm going to add in, I'm going to do count distinct of order ID. Count distinct. And we're going to make this circle, and the size is gone, and the color. All right, so now I have 5 orders, and then I also wanted to do quantity, which is down here somewhere. Yep. There we go. So now that I have 2 data points here, I can say blank orders. And this, I guess, is so now I can add this in. I can change how this looks, whatever. And I'm going to need a little bit more space for it because I made it large, but maybe I should have made this smaller. So then you have all this availability to format your mark with these texts and have additional information. So there we go. Now I have 2 data points on 1 data point, which is nice. And then I can actually edit this axis because I don't really want it all over there. So I might want to say, negative 1.5 and something like that. I don't know. Okay, anyway, I can move this point around within my axis and kind of get it exactly where I want. Okay, the last thing to do is that tooltip, that pill thing. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna add measure values. Now measure values in between here, that's where I want to be. So it added these two measure values. I had already put these in here. I think it just remembered. But anyway, you would put 0.0 and 1. And so essentially, it's now giving me this range between these two values. Let's see, where are we? There we go. Or it's plotting actually both of them. All right, so now we're gonna set these both to circles. There we go. And we're gonna draw that line between them, or we're gonna duplicate our measure values, sorry. We're gonna do a dual axis, but the second one, if we can get to it, we are going to make a line, and we're gonna have the path is measure names. Oh, and I have to sync these things. Okay, so it doesn't look like much yet. We made just basically a barbell chart between 0 and 1 is really the bottom line here. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna just make our line super fat. And we're gonna add, let's see, what's the variable I want on here? Compared to target sales. Okay, let's do this. Cool, did the right one. So you're gonna add whatever data point you want to use. So this is essentially just like you're making a fake shape, like a fake shape basically. But then you can add data on top of it. So we have our background. We're gonna go back up to this circle thing. We actually don't want it to be a circle. We want this to be a line too. And measure names. We are going to make this size just slightly smaller than the other. Let's send it to the back. There we go. Now we can see it. It's just sending one to the back. Make it a little bigger, a little bigger. Perfect. And then I'm going to add the copy of that, and you'll see. Woo, it did it. Okay. I have a copy just because Tableau won't let you assign different colors to the same calculation, obviously. So the copy allows me to add the lighter shade to this one. You don't want to do opacity. That doesn't really work quite as well for whatever reason. And then I would add, my text to this label as well, just to the beginning, or maybe the end of the line. There we go. Something like that. Anyway, you get the point. And then these obviously broke. These should still be bars. Ta-da! Okay, so that's how you make kind of a fancy table. There's a lot of things that you can do with that. All right, the last one in the last few minutes that I have is this return to where we came from. So let me just explain what this means. So, there we go. Okay, so sometimes I have had users where they say, hey, I need a detailed report. And I need it to come from, if I select a state, in this example, I'm gonna drill down to the detailed report on that state. It has a couple metrics, perfect. I'm gonna return to where I came from. It took me right back, you saw, to the company overview. Let's say that same person later is on this customer table, and they're like, well, I also want to drill down on our good friend, Sean Miller, and see how he's doing. Same metrics, I need the same charts. I don't need two of them, I just need the same one. But I don't want my user to not know, to be able to drill down and then get back to where they came from. So I can click back, I get back to where I came from. Obviously, you could have two dashboards and one dashboard goes to one and one goes to the other. That is a lot to maintain and is really not the best solution. The other solution that you could have is to have two buttons. One would be back to customer table and one would be back to overview. The problem with that is that if you get there from the overview tab in this example, and it says back to customer, I didn't even get there yet. This is confusing. Which one am I supposed to click to get back to? So you want from a user experience to go back exactly where they came from. That makes a lot more sense. So I'm gonna explain how to do that. Essentially, what we are creating is two worksheets. One is a return to customers worksheet, and one is a return to overview worksheet. Only one is ever true at a time. So what happens is I have a Boolean parameter that's just a true false, and I have a return parameter. It's true or false. Then I have two calculations. One is true, which is just as true, and the other is false, which just says false. These are used in the parameter action on a dashboard. And then I have a parameter return button, which is the parameter. So those are the couple of things that you need. They all don't seem like much until you put them together. So on this worksheet, what I actually have here is a blank shape. So if you've ever used blank shapes, there's definitely some blogs and things on them. I use them a lot for various things, but I don't need this worksheet to look like anything. I have a background image for my button. I guess if you had a button that you wanted to use as a shape, you could, but in this purpose, I'm just doing a blank shape. So all I did is put true on it. I have a blank shape. I removed all my background fill. Same thing with return to overview, except for I put the false button on it. It's a blank shape. I put the P return button false on this one, and the P button return true on this one. So again, this is the same thing. Once the parameter changes, only one of these worksheets can ever be active at one point in time. Both of these worksheets are in a container in here. So if I go to my layout, you will see there's two worksheets, my return to customers, my return to overview. My return to customers you see is filled. My return to overview is shrunken down because it doesn't exist right now based on the parameter. These worksheets have an action of just a go-to. Like, so when it's available, you click it, it's going to take you to one or the other. Okay, so this part should make sense because only one of them is here. I can click it, it's going to take me back to where it should. The trick is how to get the parameter to change based on where you started from. And that's what drives it because, so if I'm going to go back to my overview page, dashboard actions, I have a parameter. So this is what drives the whole thing. And I'm using my hex map as like the drill down path. I mean, you could have anything, but so when they click on the map, the return parameter is the one that's going to target. And from the overview, it's going to be the false parameter. And so it's going to change the value to false. So if I click on this, we're going to get this worksheet. This was the one that has false on it. It's only true and false, right? So that it triggered the parameter, which changed which chart is available in my drill down. Same thing from the overview. I mean, from the customer table, you would do the same thing, except for now we're going to do our true. So again, when you click on this worksheet, it changes the parameter to true. And then that worksheet is the only one that's available on the details page. So no matter which one you come from, you will only have one option to get back to where you came from. And that is it. I think, yeah, that was all my 10 tricks. I know there are a lot and some can be a little difficult to listen to while I explain it, but as I mentioned, the dashboard's available on my Tableau public profile, and this is recorded, so you can look back at it if you want to use any of these tips in your dashboard builds. Thank you, thank you.
Awesome, thanks so much, Lindsay. So yeah, that was a lot. There's a lot of really cool, interesting things in there, and definitely, as Lindsay mentioned, this will be recorded, at least the first half, and it will be out there and available if you want to go back and slow things down. But really, really awesome stuff, Lindsay. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.